Mouthwashing is a 2024 psychological horror game that follows the crew of a freight ship after it crashes. The crew, Jimmy, Curly, Anya, Daisuke, and Swansea, slowly start devolving into madness as they run out of food, and the only thing that remains is thousands upon thousands of bottles of mouthwash. The story follows the dual view of Jimmy after the crash and Curly before the crash, as they both try to help their crew the best they can, and how they both fail. A recurring theme of this game is to take responsibility, and that theme is portrayed wonderfully in the game's atmosphere, puzzles, timeline, and narrative. The atmosphere of the game lends itself well to how the player feels while playing it. It really makes the player feel the dwindling sanity of the characters as the game goes on, as physics and all reality start making less and less sense. For example, after Jimmy kills one of his crewmates, he's walking away when suddenly he's in a hallway with a bunch of eyes. They're Curly's eyes, and they're watching him. They see him and they see what he did. They're judging him because he's responsible for this. He thinks he did what was only best for the crew. This was for their benefit, and he's taking responsibility. One of the puzzles that stood out to me is when you feed Curly part of his leg. The crew has been starving, there are no food sources left at this point, and Jimmy turns to the only source of meat left, Curly. He cuts off Curly's leg and feeds it to him through a grueling puzzle, where messing up leaves Curly to throw up his own leg before you stuff it down his throat again. This is Jimmy taking responsibility. He wants Curly to stay alive, and to stay alive he needs to eat. He's taking care of his crew, he's doing what a good captain should do. And this really shoves down your throat, literally, how extremely Jimmy is taking these responsibilities. Mouthwashing also does an incredibly good job of making the player feel helpless, similar to the characters, as horrible things continue to happen to them no matter what any of them do. They are unable to tell when awful things are going to happen. The game makes an excellent use of a non-linear timeline. It shows disjointed parts of the story at random times, constantly switching from before the crash to after. This recontextualizes parts of the story as the player is going through it, seeing earlier actions in a new light, and giving us backstory interlaced with the main storyline. This is best portrayed with how they slowly revealed why Anya fears Jimmy. In the scenes from after the crash, you see Anya being wildly uncomfortable around Jimmy, even reluctant to be in a room alone with him. You also see her getting nauseous a lot. And then near the end, you learn that Jimmy sexually assaulted her and left her pregnant. We even see she tried to confront him about it, but instead of being mature and responsible like Jimmy likes to think he is, he crashes the ship and blames Curly. The fact that we never learn about this through Jimmy's point of view really lends to the use of disjointed timeline and an unreliable narrator. Jimmy is the unreliable narrator in this story, as he is the point of view we follow most. He believes himself to be the hero of the story, saving his crew and his captain, but he doesn't realize the damage he's doing to everyone around him. Playing him feels like an out-of-body experience. He pulls you in and then does horrible things, leaving you petrified at whatever he'll make you do next. He sees no issue in what he's done, ever, and because of that, neither do you until it's too late. For example, when you fight Swansea in the graveyard. He's chasing Jimmy, creeping around corners and attacking him with his axe, and Jimmy is clearly terrified. The camera is shaky, the gun he's holding is shaky, and the music and sounds are loud and overbearing. It makes you feel scared. So when Swansea comes around the corner, you feel like you have to shoot him. The scene could be interpreted as being in Jimmy's mind, and your willingness to shoot Swansea is him crossing the line and feeling like he can do it too. And he does. The final way the game's mechanics pull you in is through the inevitability of your actions. This is heavily highlighted by the timeline being so disjointed. There's no way to help the characters in the game or change anything even once you learn the truth. You can only do what Jimmy or the other characters think is correct in the moment, even if you know it will go wrong. This is best portrayed in the scenes leading up to and containing Daisuke's death. Daisuke and Jimmy are trying to get to Anya, who's locked herself in the medical room. They know of an air duct in the utility room, but Swansea has it locked down. Jimmy asks him to open it up, but he won't. You fade from Swansea and Daisuke to Daisuke, heavily injured, in the future. Swansea asked about the disinfectant you found earlier in the game, but Jimmy used it for some cocktail. Jimmy finds some mouthwash and uses it as disinfectant, and Daisuke screams. You fade from injured Daisuke to uninjured Daisuke, asking how we were going to move Swansea, and Jimmy says they could knock him out and get his keys, so they go to make a cocktail. You can't stop them. Jimmy adds the disinfectant. You can't save Daisuke. They don't know what's going to happen. You can't do anything. Mouthwashing uses multiple techniques to leave the player out of the loop. pushing them away from the narrator, but even then still drawing them into the story, unable to look away as the horrors unfold around them while they can do nothing to stop them. The central theme of taking responsibility is enforced yet challenged by the idea that the player had no responsibility in any of the actions committed in the story, but they still feel like they did these things. The story effectively makes the player feel like they're slowly losing it as the walls close in around Jimmy, slowly but surely, until he ends it, abruptly, with a bang.